guys just had your session, I think. Yeah. So was it okay? Did you like it? How is it to speak in a virtual event without so much interaction? Was it okay?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, at least you can see how many people are there, and you can start imagining how many people are there. We just didn't have enough time. There were so many questions. So you can ask some of them.
That's interesting. Yeah, if you tell me, I'm more than happy to. I mean, you can also, if some of the people at least are going here, and you pose the question here, I'll take a look at the chat, and sometimes it's okay for me to read. So if you have any questions, just post them here, and I'll try to get engaged here. But talking about joint politics for a minute, because most of the people that are here probably weren't in your session, so I think it's another way to. So it sounds like a fascinating project. First of all, to say that, can you just describe a little bit what you're doing there and why did you actually start it? Because it seems like quite an unconventional way of approaching this, and we like unconventional things. So, yeah.
It definitely is unconventional. So in a nutshell, we're a startup, and we're scouting, hopefully finding and promoting political talents who develop innovative new solutions to the big challenges of our times and who want to scale them politically. So people who are ready to not only go in the streets on Fridays, but actually develop solutions themselves and are ready to take up political responsibility. So that's what we do in a nutshell. Why do we do that? I think Rainer put it very well this morning on stage. We're really doing something concrete against the erosion of democracy. What really shook us and moved us was both of us in a similar situation, actually. Trump, the election of Trump in 2016, Brexit, the rise of populist forces, not only in the US, but also in Europe. And also the fact that we see that our challenges today are becoming increasingly complex, moving increasingly fast, and are becoming increasingly difficult to moderate. So the job of the politician is becoming increasingly complex. The job of political parties is becoming increasingly difficult. And we thought a lot about, what does it need? Does it need maybe something similar to the startup world? Do you need not only the big tankers, but do you need some speedboats to develop ideas and solutions? And that's really what we want to do. We want to create a space where this is possible. And we want to move more talents to get engaged in politics, because we think they should not only go to digital startups and
which
Google
makes a lot
Facebook.
of sense. Yeah.
We need them in politics.
Absolutely, yeah, 100% agreed. Because I mean, we see in a phase like now, like COVID, how important it is that also in politics there are very important decisions to be made on a daily basis. One sometimes forgets things. If you're in 16 years Angela Merkel, everything works smoothly, but you don't really notice it. You sometimes don't probably get the picture of how important it is. Can you describe a little bit more? What do you mean by getting politically engaged? Yeah, because, a naive person, me, would say, okay, then I apply for the, SPD, and then I try to get a position there, or I'll try to apply for the Ministry of Interior, and try to get politically involved there by working. So what kind of formats are those, how you can get politically engaged, and what are the formats you are actually supporting and looking for?
I mean, maybe picking up on what you just said, and make a comparison also in the startup world. I think that we also have a problem in politics, that these are often very closed shops, closed rooms, and very traditional structures. And for a lot of, especially young people, it's really also from the culturally very difficult to fit in parties sometimes. And you see more and more people starting up something in a political movement. Everyone knows Fridays for Future, for example. It's also a movement. Young people go together, are very agile and collaborative. They use WhatsApp primarily for their engagement. And we say there are so many people out there, young people, who want to go into politics, and maybe you also have to talk what is actually politics. Mm-hmm. What is politics in the 21st century? And it's parties, and they also do a good job. And we want work together with parties to find the best talents. And we think that innovative structures need to be on the outside from exterior and work kind of have an impact in the interior world of parties, for example. So we say, let's find a module to really give, let's say, money, give network, give know-how to young people, and give them the space and the capacity to make their ideas come true. And you can only apply for joint politics if you have a great innovative idea.
Mm-hmm. But would the end goal be that the people that you somehow support end up in the traditional structures to impose kind of the impact? Or would you say it's completely okay if the next Fridays for Future, yeah, I mean, whether you agree with the goals or not, they have had great impact. Yeah, that's at least my perception. Mm-hmm. And they were not part of any structure, and can also be very impactful. Yeah? So, are you flexible on this, or would you basically say, in order to have long-term impact, mm-hmm. it's necessary to become part of the political structures as we have them?
I mean, more the latter. We are very mm-hmm. interested in people who, for example, maybe first go on the street. Mm-hmm. You see more talents from Fridays for Future say, now this is not enough. Mm-hmm. I have to go into politics. I have to run be a candidate for the Bundestag for the next election next year and become, for example, a member of a party and then have real impact mm-hmm. on politics. And we really understand these mm-hmm. people. And this is interesting because they bring a new culture into politics, but also they are very aware I need to have impact. Mm-hmm. And this is in traditional structures, but by being a candidate for this party, I can also change within structures and parties. And this is just one example. Maybe you want to give another example.
Yeah, I think in some ways both is true, right? You always have to think about where can I really not only make my voice heard, but where can I really make a difference, and where is these positions of power? And in many cases, you'll just have to go through a party and through elections. But of course, there'll be many examples where you can bring something into politics from the outside. So in our, we already have a beta phase where we went out and we scouted for talents and we looked, what ideas are out there, what kind of people are out there, and we had a huge variety of applications. So people who wanted to run for politics, people who wanted to, found a new party, mm-hmm. People who have a specific topic that they want to bring into politics via other means, by lobby campaigning, by making proposals for how policies could look like. Mm-hmm. So we have one team. It's two ladies. One is German-Polish, one is German-French, mm-hmm. and their topic is basically Rechtsstaatlichkeit, what's the word? The rule of law mm-hmm. in Europe, because they see that degrading in so many spaces. And what they're fighting for, or their idea, is to fight for like a European agency for civil and political education. So in Germany, there's an organization. How do you call it in English again?
Just in German.
Bundeszentrale für politische Bildung. Okay. So their idea is to transfer that on a European level. Mm-hmm. So they're working on the policy paper. They're talking to lots of politicians in Germany, in France, in Brussels, and via that way they try to mobilize support for this idea. And they hope that in the end, von der Leyen will take up the idea and mm-hmm. And make that big. So that's another way to take scale an idea.
So when would you basically? So you support people, that can be individuals, that can be teams, that can be also, I guess, companies or initiatives resulting from that. When would you call it a success? I mean, how do you define your own success? Because I mean, it's obviously not that. I mean, here it's pretty clear. Yeah, valuation is X, and we invested Y, and Y is smaller than X. X very likely is a success. Yeah. So and then it depends on the order of magnitude of success. But with you guys, it's obviously a lot more difficult to say that. Have you thought about this, or have you defined it clearly? Do you have OKRs? Everybody hears OKRs for what success is in your case.
We just implemented OKRs for a beta phase, the teams, and it's very helpful. And we have many exits, different exits, as you can imagine, because it's very individual. And the easiest exit, so to say, is you're running for the Bundestag, for example, and you get elected. And then you have your own office, you're in power, you're a politician, and that's one exit. Or you run to become a mayor. Where there are many similarities to the startup world is when you actually are a founder, a political founder, and a political entrepreneur, and you say, I have to found not a company, but let's say Verein, an initiative, and I need funding for that. I have to scale my idea. I need HR, I need money, and there we help, of course, with the seed funding that we provide, up to 200,000 euros over 2 months, if you're over 2 years, if you're really good. And at the
2 months, that's always
2
like,
months, that would be really nice. But at the same time, you always, especially for these teams, you just mentioned one team, we always have calls. What is your funding strategy? Are you talking to foundations? Is there a chance to get money from the European Commission, for example? They fund pilot projects like they do. So that's a key for to become sustainable, also financially sustainable, to grow.
So also for you, follow-on funding is a really key issue because it's here as well. That sounds right. But in case people become successful, like how does the model work? Is there any kind of, are they morally or contractually obligated to pay back the money if they're successful and they're able to do that? Or is it rather something, no, we are happy if the exit happens and that's our success, but we don't expect any of the money coming back?
Yeah, we don't expect any of the money coming back. We're really non-profit. I think we're going to remain non-profit. It's politics. We have to be. But of course, what we hope is that in the end, and there we have to differentiate between short-term results and long-term results, right? Is really people who fight for democracy, who have solutions that unite people instead of, bringing them apart. So we have a lot of sort of different measures, and of course we expect, or we hope to see good results in that respect. The only thing we expect in return is that they would probably become coaches themselves after some point when they have been successful to coach others. So we're also over time building a community of political entrepreneurs who support each other. But we're non-profit.
And who's financing you? I mean, where does the 200,000 euros come from, or the money for your salary, your office? I mean, where's that money coming from?
Yeah, so we put a lot of thought into this because, of course, it's not an easy funding model. Because it's non-profit, because a lot of things also don't fall under charitable law in Germany. For example, if you give a stipend to people that is not connected to studies, and also if it's political, that easily falls at least in a gray zone of charitable law. So we want to be very clear there. So we really depend on private donations. We've set up a fund structure, and we're looking for investors or supporters who believe in the idea and who stand behind the non-partisan mission. I think that's very important to mention, that we're non-partisan. So for the start, we have 7 angel investors, or 7 angel supporters, as we call them, who have committed a sum of 2.5 million over 4 years, which is really amazing. It's really helping us to kick off the ground and do the first couple of cohorts. But of course, you do the maths, right? 50,000 per seed round. We need much more. So we're looking at doing closing the first fund with 6 million. So we're on the lookout.
So if you have any idea who could support this, either write to Caroline or Philipp directly on LinkedIn. You can find them. Or we can obviously also initiate the contact. Or we have to do a crowdfunding for you guys. That also, Tomorrow Bank worked really well. I don't know whether you saw that. That could also be an interesting idea. There's one question.
Let's talk about that.
There's one question from the audience that says, how do you choose the candidates and which requirements do they have to fulfill? Which I think is a very fair question.
Yeah, it is. So how do we choose them? We have quite a complex selection process, and we have been inspired a little bit by the VC model, I have to say. So looking at how do VCs work? How do they identify the best talents? How do they see potential? And we're trying to transfer a little bit of that. So we have 2 committees. The first one is called the Talent Committee, because there it's really about seeing the talent in a person and in a team. And people can apply. We have a number of selection rounds. People have apply with a political impact plan. So no business plan, but the political impact plan is very important. And then we select the best in this process. The talent committee, there's people from different backgrounds, different political views, and we also take in the advice of experts. So, for instance, if you apply with a Europe project, we'll ask our European experts in the network, and then of course we accompany the teams for the seed period of 6 months. And after 6 months, they pitch in front of a larger jury of people from politics, civil society, business, etc. And there's a bit like a democratic debate. And then after that, the most promising solutions get picked for the scaling phase or for the growth phase. So it's important for us to be very focused at the beginning, because it's so much about, knowing the person, looking at not only does that person convince us, do they have a good plan, a good strategy, do they understand their market, is it realistic, but also do they fit with the values that we have at Joint Politics? Are they, because non-partisan is one of our values, transparency is one of our values. We have a whole charter, values charter, that has to be. It's basically the basis for all our work with the talents, and of course, you have to know a person well to see whether that's the case.
And what really is difficult is you ask for the criteria. What is political? Going back to that question, because we had in our first beta phase fantastic applications from people who, for example, had a good idea for a political YouTube channel, so become a political influencer, so to say. But we said that we are looking for people, talents who want to go to politics, and you can, of course, argue having a YouTube channel is being political. It's totally right. But we are specifically looking for people who have an idea to go directly into politics and the politischen Betrieb, as we call it in German.
Yeah, and I think it's key. I mean, it's also in venture capital. There's so many great things out there, but I think it's probably more important sometimes to know what you don't want to do and clearly state that as well, because otherwise you're completely going crazy.
Exactly.
So how did you both end up in this, actually? Just because we also have people here that are, looking for purpose, and so it has become really important. So how did you guys end up in this kind of, I find it a fascinating idea, but it's not something that is rather obvious, I would say. Yeah? So
totally.
How did
you started it? Explain
that. So, sometimes I wonder how I ended up there. I think I was always a person looking for purpose, or where I can have an impact. But sometimes I wonder, because, I'm just one of these people who's, worried about our democracy, worried about the, how the discourse is shaping in times of crisis. So what is it about me? I think I really get fed up when people just talk and complain about problems and don't get up and just do something about it. So that's kind of what sort of guides me.
But did you work in the political system before?
I didn't, and that's the point, right? I was I had some always at the intersection of politics and civil society, but I wasn't in a party. I moved around a lot when I was young, so I never really had this classical way into politics. But I realized, so before I was working at a foundation, building startups, social startups in Kenya and Uganda, because I always thought, okay, so this is where help is needed, but that shifted over time, because I saw, okay, we really have homework to do here. And after the Trump elections, I started like a dialogue format with friends in Munich at that time, where we tried to bring lots of diverse perspectives into one room, people who think completely differently, and start to have a discussion. Same thing after Brexit. I was so shocked that, we thought about the upcoming European elections and started like a voter activation campaign, because we said, oh, it's not possible that only a third of the young people go to vote, and then you have these results.
Crazy if you think about the consequences.
So I always started getting engaged, and I realized, okay, there's a huge need, but there's also a huge potential. So many young people are ready to go into politics again and to take up responsibility. And that's where this idea of joint politics started developing.
Yeah, and I think helping people to find an angle to that, I think is really important, because a lot of people like a lot of things.
Yes.
Or like certain things that are important, but I think showing people a way on how to do that practically, I think is really key, and also many other aspects. Thanks a lot for what you do, and I hope you will be really successful, and hopefully you'll find, the next 2.5 million based on this conference. No, we'll see, but there's some.
We have a Spenden button on our website.
Yeah, you can start small. Yeah,
it's in German, but we help.
Yeah, doing good. Start small. It doesn't have to be several million. You can start small. Yeah, but thanks a lot for that. And if you want to get in touch with them, just write to us or directly to them on LinkedIn. So thanks a lot for your time, and hope you'll enjoy the remainder of the conference.
Thank you.